Let's talk about the travel industry. Some 22 million plus tourists go to Mexico every year. 70% of those are from the United States. And frankly, this morning you have a lot of travelers wondering if they should cancel or postpone their trips. In fact, a lot of the airlines are allowing you to waive some of the fees to change your flights if you need to. Air Canada has canceled some flights to Cozumel and Cancun and also to Puerto Vallarta. So if you are flying on Air Canada, there might be some changes there. And Carnival Cruise Lines has issued a statement saying, in fact, they will be rerouting their ships from some of their Mexican ports of call for the very near term here. So the travel industry clearly being affected. We spoke to a travel agent named Monty Agard, and he said it's not just Mexico people are worried about, but basically travelers are concerned about going anywhere right now.
It's making everyone whose travel is necessary worried about, will London be next? Will Chicago be next? Will Paris be next? Will Russia be a problem? So it's affecting the entire travel industry, not just one location.
And Roger Dow is the president and CEO of the U.S. Travel Association. He says that even if the H1N1 virus outbreak is contained, doesn't get any worse, he says the damage might already be done.
It is about perception, and one of the biggest challenges you have is to end up with an infodemic versus an epidemic.
An infodemic versus an epidemic. I mean, think about it. Many of the people that we talked to, many of the people that we talked to in the travel industry were pointing out just what you were hearing in this press conference, that frankly, 36,000 at least people on average die every year from the regular flu, but you have a lot of concerns about this new strain, and that's causing people simply to stay home. If you are one of those people who's decided to stay home, there are a lot of things that you can do with your travel providers. A lot of the hotels are waiving cancellation fees for their hotel chains within Mexico, but clearly it will also have an impact on the chains working here in the United States, because of course the EU has said that a non-essential travel to the United States should be put off as well for European travelers. So we'll see some big fallout in the travel industry, I'm sure.
All right, let's also look at some of the numbers we got about 8:30 this morning on gross domestic product, or GDP. People were kind of surprised, caught off guard, I think, by these numbers, because it is a gauge of the health of the economy, and these were in line with how they were in late 2008.
That's absolutely right, Melissa. We've been talking about glimmers of hope, as the president puts it, those green shoots in the economy that so many economists have been cautiously saying maybe there were signs of stabilization in the economy, the very precursors of a recovery. And then you get first quarter growth numbers that show the economy almost as dismal as it was in the fourth quarter. Look at this chart. This shows you how the economy has performed quarter by quarter. You can see in the third quarter of last year, we knew things were turning south. The fourth quarter of last year, basically parts of the economy were shutting down, and then first quarter 2009, not really much of an improvement at all. You saw exports down 40%. You saw companies spending dramatically less. I mean, shutting down parts of their businesses to the tune of like 38% less spending on products and investments. Where you did see a little glimmer of hope, however, was in the consumer. We're always looking for that glimmer of hope.
The
consumer, for the first time in a year, spent a little bit more, up 2.2% for personal consumption expenditures. And what that means is that the consumer, at least, either was just sick and tired of all the negative news, figured out a way to spend a little bit of money after saving money so well for the last few months of last year, or at least was starting to get used to this idea of a very weak economy, that it didn't feel like the floor was falling out from under them anymore, and they were able to make some long deferred purchases. So that was a little bit of a bright spot there. What we don't know is what the second quarter looks like, and that's why we want to hear what the Fed has to say later today from its big Fed meeting. Maybe the Fed will have some more clues for us about whether there's some stabilization in the economy in the second quarter, but clearly the fourth quarter of last year and the first quarter of this year, it's a 6-month period that is very weak. The weakest 6-month period maybe in I think since in the 1950s.
Wow.
So it's a very weak stretch there that we've just endured.
You know, perhaps people are spending also because there are some great deals to be had out there, and also
You're
people are getting their tax
right.
returns back. Maybe they're putting them back into the economy.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And they have been so stingy or afraid for so long now. Frugal maybe is a better word than stingy. That they're starting to make important key purchases that they have put off. But we do know that a weak auto industry has subtracted from American economic growth for the past couple of quarters, and that's expected to continue. And one thing that concerns me about this number from companies that really pulling back on their spending, that doesn't bode well for jobs. And we know that that is the most important part of our own personal economy, is whether you have a job and a paycheck coming in. So that's something that really bears watching.